Okay, here are a couple of ideas for how you might go about conducting a class discussion that you can keep track of and know who is contributing to what. So, first idea is Google Classroom. So, if you are in your email, and that's always a good starting point for anything Google, start with your email and then go to wherever you need to go from there. So if I'm in email, the starting point is always the 9 dots, takes you to the apps, jump into Classroom. Now, my Classroom has gone crazy the last few days as you're all adding me into your classes. So I've got hundreds of classes now. If I was to look for my CPP class, it'll be in here somewhere. No, there it is. If I go into that class, the easiest way for me to hold a discussion forum is in the stream. I put in a question, what do you think about blah, 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 and I hit post, and then all of my students can see it, and then they can begin posting. Or I can schedule it, because I know that my class is tomorrow at second period, so that's 8:30. So I could schedule it and say tomorrow at 8:40, sure. Click schedule, and it thinks for a moment, and then it is ready to go up in your saved announcements. What do you think? So that's one way to do it, and then students add into it. But that gets a little bit tricky to see who has done what and to go back to it. So here's idea number 2. You could use a Google Doc. So again, start in your email, go up to your 9 dots for the apps. You could go to Docs or to Drive. I like to start in Drive all the time because then I've got options. And you could just click New Google Doc, and you give the document a name, discussion on this, and then you share it with all of your students. Now, a quick way to do that, there's a couple of ways to do it, would be one, if I click done, one would be to go back to my classroom and add it as material. And then I could call it discussion about this. And I could link it to that document that I've just used. And then I could post it, or I could schedule it like I did before, or save it as a draft. That way, it's automatically shared with all the students. And that's probably the easiest way to do it. Now, what does that allow you to do? Well, then it allows you to set something up on that document that allows everybody to type in. So you might set some rules up the top. These are the rules. Oops, these are the rules. And you list your rules on how you're going to, what the rules are going to be. And then you start, you put the question in. What do you think about this? And then the kids start discussing. One of your rules will be, please start each comment with your name. That might be one of the main rules there. So as they begin discussing, Bruce is going to say, I think, da, 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 and then Sarah, and so on. So that's one way to do it. Or you could go a step further and try something a little bit different for idea number 3, And instead of creating a Google Doc, choose a Google Sheet. Now here's the interesting thing. What you can do in a Google Sheet is set up names of the students all across the top so that they write their comments, their answers, in a cell below. Or you could write, put the names down there and they write their comments, and then a student could respond, and then you see the chain of conversation. So let me show you how you might do that very quickly. You give it a title. You're going to call it, what do you think? Think about whatever it is. Then the easiest way to get your students' names is actually over in your classroom. If you go to the People tab and you've got your list of students, if you start clicking right up here in between the actions and the email all guardians piece and click and hold and drag down, you're going to select all the names. Drag it to the bottom and then use your keyboard to hold Command C to copy it, and then you can go back to your spreadsheet and Command V and paste them in. You can select this Invite Guardians, delete all of that, and then you've got all of your students, and you can post the question up here. And the question, I'll use a real example. What do you think about mangoes? So then George might write, I love them. Malik could write, not my favorite. And then I could respond, again, you might need to use the same rules. Why not? And then Malik could, because, and then you can have a thread of the response from Malik and then my response to him. It's just a different way to think about using a spreadsheet as a discussion forum. And then you get to see who's contributed. Now, you might think, well, anyone, Bruce could write in Yahya's thing. Well, yeah, but we can check that if we want to. And we can see the version history, and it will show us the different versions and who's written what. So you can check that to see that whoever is writing in the column is actually the person you think it is. So that's the third way. And the fourth one, if we're back in classroom, we go to classwork, we can create a question, and this is going to be the same sort of thing as the stream. What do you think about, and I'm going to say, no, we'll put it in the category formative, no due date, no topic. We'll make it unmarked. Students can reply to each, student can edit, and I'll say ask. And then this pops up as, if we click on it, view the question. Where do they type? Question, then the comments go in, and then you can see the student answers. So that tracks it even better than the spreadsheet, and maybe then you're going to see the replies as well. So that's another really good way to ask a question, hold a discussion there. So that's it, 4 different ways to ask a question and hold a discussion.